There's a fairly major and rather bizarre rumour floating around on X that I've been tagged in a number of times, so I thought I'd respond to it. And that is that apparently some newspapers are said to have received a super injunction not to print certain information about the private life of Sir Keir Starmer. I have absolutely no idea whether that is true or any idea about what information they are talking about, so I can only speculate, and there's a very good reason for that, because a lot of people have asked me what on earth is a super injunction, how does it apply, and what's it all about? Well, here's the thing. If I knew of a super injunction, then I wouldn't even be able to tell you that the super injunction exists. That's sort of what a super injunction is. You see, a normal injunction, if you've got some private information that you don't want to get out in the public domain, for example, a confidential recipe or your private client list and things like this, and your business will be destroyed if this is leaked to the public and all those kind of things, then you can go to the court for an injunction to prohibit another party from publishing that information. Now, if there's a lot of more personal information and it's really, really private, and you don't even want them, for example, the newspapers, telling people that you've got an injunction to prevent them from publishing this information, then that, very broadly speaking, is a super injunction. A super injunction is slightly different than a normal injunction to prohibit somebody from publishing the information, in that it goes beyond that and even prevents them from reporting on the injunction itself. So here's one of the really strange things. If this is true, you won't even know about it because they won't be allowed to tell you about it. It's essentially what some people refer to as a gag order, but on two levels. One, in that you can't talk about the subject matter of the injunction, i.e. details X, Y, and Z you can't even talk about, but also you can't, on a second level, you can't even tell people that this injunction exists. Now, these are obviously fairly controversial because it does limit a free press and it does limit the dissemination of information. And that is, I understand, a very broad overview, but there is a very much more detailed overview in a fantastic video by Alan Robert Shaw on the art of law. Yes, it rhymes. I'll link that video in the description below. It goes into great detail on super injunctions, what they mean, when they're granted, and all of that sort of stuff. So in summary, there is this massive rumour floating around that there is something to do with the private life, but I also have to caveat this. If there were some big secret, which some people are reporting as an open secret on X, if there were some big secret about the private life of one of these guys, I would say that that isn't really in the public interest. And this is kind of the point here, because it's been broadly discussed. I noticed Dan Wootton had done a video on this as well, calling in various sources. It isn't really in the public interest for people to know about the private lives of individuals who are in government. Unless, of course, it were to have a detrimental impact on their ability to govern or to stand in their position in office. For example, let's say there was some big, deep, dark secret that was holding him to some kind of ransom in his position as PM, then obviously that would compromise his position. I don't think for a minute that that is the case. And even if it were, and the newspapers knew that, and there were this injunction, which I don't think there is, but if there were, then they wouldn't be able to report on it, and they wouldn't be able to report on the fact that there's an injunction prohibiting them from reporting on it, if that makes sense. Overall, I don't think there is such a thing. I think it is just a rumour. I think it is just something that's bouncing around online. But nonetheless, people have asked me what it is, broadly what it is, what it would mean, and what effect it would have. And as a very broad overview at 8 o'clock at night, that's as much as really I'm going to say. Other than I'll link Al's video in the description below, which explains super injunctions in far more detail. Go and watch that. I hope you enjoy it. Make sure you subscribe here for a brutally frank alternative to the mainstream media. And I thank you for watching.